Okay, today I'm going to show you how to do color correction with the Lumetri that you can find inside Premiere. Basically, we have 4 shots and I've cut them in half, and what we're going to be doing is color correcting the second half of the shot so we can have a before and after. Alright, so let's start by hovering over the second half of shot 1, and then we will go to Window, Workspaces, Color, and that will open up the Lumetri panel. And the effects controls are here, and then we can turn on our Lumetri scopes. And what we want is the RGB parade and the Luma waveform monitor. And to get that, we'll right click in here, we'll go to Presets, Parade RGB Waveform, and then we will turn this one into Luma only. And so the waveform monitor measures our white, black, and gray levels, and so 0% is black, 100% is white, and then we can color balance by using our RGB and making these shapes look pretty much identical to get the proper color correction. So I'm going to turn on effects so you can see it, but when we do our first basic color correction, it's going to, like, I'm going to lower our blacks a little bit. It's going to create the Lumetri in our effects panel automatically. So let's go back to our scopes. And what we want to do is we want to lower our blacks until our image is just touching black down here. Alright? And then we'll just push our whites up as high as they can go. But we would not take them past 100%. So now we will take the shadows. Now I'm looking at the image, and I'm just going to bring down the shadows until the image looks a little denser, and then we're going to bring up the highlights to brighten it, and we're still below our 100% level. And actually, let's set our monitors to float. And now let's raise our exposure a little bit. Adjust our contrast. Okay, so the overall, so the brightness of the image looks pretty good. If we look at our monitors, though, we can match these shapes a little bit better. So let's play with our blue, orange, to get them to look a little bit more alike. And I'm just looking at the RGB parade right now, and let's add a little magenta. And so these guys look similar enough. And now we can see our before and after. Now the last thing that we'll do to this image is we'll add a vignette. And so I'm going to darken it, and I'm going to take out the feather so we can see the shape of our vignette. And so let's go ahead and make it smaller, make it a little rounder, make it smaller, and then feather it. And the whole idea is that we want to see it and not see the vignette at the same time, so that we're just darkening the edges to drag our eye to the subject. So here it's like it's definitely doing its job, but I don't see it. It's not calling attention to itself. All it's doing is dragging our attention to our subjects. Alright, let's go to our next subject, and we will do our basic color correction here. We'll start by lowering our blacks just so they just touch 0, and we will raise up our whites, which are pretty much there. Let's adjust our shadow level a little bit. And now let's do a little bit of white balancing. So let's go ahead and let's take the eyedropper and pick something that's white, and that's not good. And so that'll help set our white balance. We'll take a look at our shapes. Looks like we could maybe be a little less blue, a little more green, and that's a good starting point. Now let's go add a look to this image. And the one that, and so basically we can, let's take a HSL big. I'll double click on that, and that will add this look on top of our color corrected image. And then we will decide how much of it that we want or don't want. What I like about it is how it puts the background in a bluish shadow and makes our hero pop out. Now let's play, this red is a little too bright, so let's go ahead and get into our HSL secondary and mess with that. We will grab our eyedropper, and we will grab the color red, and what we want to do is move this around until that color red is all we see. Okay, that's raising it up into that zone. Alright, there's our color red. We'll see if by feathering the ramp on it. Come on now. Okay. And so that's defined it pretty well, and let's pull down its luma. And let's desaturate it a little bit. Too much. Try to darken it even more, desaturate it a little more, and it's a little jaggedy, so let's blur the image. And add a little denoiser. Okay, so let's look at our before and after. Okay, so we've brought that down, and now let's add a vignette. That's just on our hero. Out. Make it a little less dense. Alright, and now we've got a good look that really pops out our hero. So for this shot, what we want to do is just isolate the color of the tie. And so let's start with our basic color corrections again. We will lower our black level, raise up our white level, let's play with the, let's bring down the shadows, play with our contrast. And now let's see if we can get a nice white balance out of this guy. Okay, so the dropper tool didn't do a great job because these shapes don't look alike. So let's see if we can do it a second time and get better results. And the answer is no. So now what we'll do is we'll add a little blue so that these knees match. These knees right here. And let's play with the green. Okay, so that's a pretty good basic color setting. Now let's go into our HL secondary and we will pick the color of the tie and we will move this around until it's just the tie, which is there. And let's play with the ramp, see what we get. Now we'll move the saturation around, trying to fill up the tie, and we'll play with the ramp, looking for the same effect. And now we'll play with the lightness. Okay, and let's stretch that out. So we'll denoise it a little bit, we'll blur it a little bit. We'll turn on the mask, and then when we pull down the saturation, we've got a better look at our tie. So we can now tweak it again even more. Wrong way. A little better. Come on. Darken our overall correction a little bit. I would like to get a little more of that tie in there if we can. Okay, we'll call that shot good. And now in our final shot, we're going to turn this image into a day for night shot. And so we will start with our basic color correction. We will set our blacks. We'll set our whites, which are not reaching 100 yet. We'll bring down our shadows. Bring up our highlights a little bit. Let's increase our contrast. Pull down our exposure. Alright. So now we'll go to our creative, and what we're going to pick is SL Blue Day for Night. And we'll bump it up a little bit. And we'll go back to our basic color correction, and let's desaturate it a little bit, because black and white day for night work is more desaturated than that. Alright, now let's start playing with some vignettes. Okay, that's a start. Now, what we want to do though is we want to kind of add a second Lumetri to it, and just mess with the making our vignette a little smaller. So we will go to video effects, color correction, and we'll add a second Lumetri to it. We will grab our mask tool, and we will change its shape. And then we'll feather it out. We'll hit inverted so that everything happens outside the mask. And all we have to do now is just pull down our exposure. Okay. Let's see how that looks. So we'll go to our effects. So that's with the new mask and without. I think that looks pretty good. Let's go to our original Lumetri, and we will go to our creative, and then we'll play with our intensity again. Of our day for night filter. Alright, so now it feels dark, day for nighty, but we can still see what we want to watch. Alright, now it's time to render all of our shots. And we will export it. Export media. We will call it your name, Lumetri Workshop. Tell it where you want it to save it. We will make it a Apple ProRes Lite file. We'll match source, so it's 1920 by 1080. Hit export. Check it when you're done and post it on Canvas.